Most students leave school knowing how to solve equations, write essays, memorize dates, and pass tests. But then they get their first real paycheck, look at the number on the screen, and realize something strange. The salary they were promised is not the money they actually keep. That is the first money lesson school rarely teaches. In school, numbers feel clean. In real life, money is moving through taxes, rent, insurance, food, transportation, subscriptions, debt payments, and the small purchases that do not look dangerous until they repeat every month. Today, we are talking about what school never teaches about money, not because school is useless, and not because grades do not matter. Grades can open doors, but money is a different game. If nobody explains the rules, a smart student can still become a confused adult with a good job, a full schedule, and no real wealth. Meet Ethan. He is 18, finishing school with decent grades, a clean backpack, and a simple plan. Go to college, get a job, earn money, pay bills, save a little, and eventually become successful. It sounds reasonable because that is the story most students hear. But the story is missing the part where money actually behaves like a system. Ethan thinks income is the goal. Then he learns the first rule. Income is not the same as cash flow. Income is what comes in. Cash flow is what survives after real life takes its share. A person can earn more money and still feel broke if every extra dollar is already assigned to a bigger apartment, a nicer car, expensive food, new clothes, or payments from decisions they made months ago. That is why two people can earn the same salary and live completely different lives. One person gets paid, spends almost everything, and waits for the next paycheck. The other person gets paid, keeps a gap between income and lifestyle, and uses that gap to build options. The salary might be the same, but the direction is not. School usually teaches students to chase the highest grade. Real life rewards people who understand the gap. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is where freedom begins. It is where emergency savings come from, where investments begin, where debt gets paid down, and where a person gets the power to say no to bad choices. The second lesson is that taxes are not just an adult detail. They are part of the money map. A student might hear that a job pays $60,000 a year and imagine $5,000 a month. But the paycheck does not arrive that way. Taxes, insurance, retirement contributions, and other deductions can take a serious piece before the money even reaches the bank account. This does not mean taxes are bad or that deductions are a scam. It means adults need to plan with the money they actually keep, not the headline salary they imagined. A person who ignores taxes builds a life on pretend numbers, and pretend numbers create very real stress. Then comes the third lesson. Debt is a machine. Some debt can help you buy a future, and some debt makes you keep paying for the past. A student loan for a degree with strong income potential might be a calculated risk. A business loan used carefully might build an asset. A mortgage on a property someone can afford might become part of a long-term plan. But credit card debt, oversized car payments, and buy now pay later habits can turn yesterday's choices into tomorrow's paycheck. The dangerous part is that debt does not feel heavy at the start. It feels small. It feels like one monthly payment. Then the payments stack, and suddenly the person is working hard just to maintain decisions they already made. Ethan sees this when his older cousin gets a decent job and immediately upgrades everything. New car, better phone, nicer apartment, more restaurants, and weekend trips that look normal online. At first, it looks like success. A year later, the cousin earns more than before but has less freedom than ever because the income increased and the obligations increased faster. That is lifestyle inflation. It is one of the quietest traps in money. Nobody forces it. It happens when a person treats every raise like permission to make life more expensive. A little comfort is fine, but if every income increase becomes a new monthly bill, the person is not becoming richer. They are only becoming harder to support. The fourth lesson school rarely explains is the difference between assets and liabilities. An asset is something that can put money back into your life, grow in value, or increase your earning power. A liability is something that takes money out. The tricky part is that many liabilities look impressive and many assets look boring. A car can be useful, but for most people it takes money through payments, insurance, fuel, repairs, and depreciation. A skill can be invisible, but it can raise income for decades. A small investment account can look unimpressive in the beginning, but it can grow quietly over time. A rental property, a business, a client list, a useful software tool, or a valuable certification can all become assets if they produce value beyond the moment. Rich people are not rich only because they earn money. They are rich because they try to own things that keep working after the paycheck arrives. Poor money habits ask, can I afford the payment? Better money habits ask, will this make me stronger in 5 years? The fifth lesson is that saving is important, but saving alone is not enough. Saving protects you from emergencies. It stops one flat tire, one medical bill, or one job problem from becoming a disaster. Everyone needs that buffer. But if money only sits still while prices rise, the money slowly loses purchasing power. That is where investing enters the story. And school often makes investing feel either mysterious or dangerous. In reality, investing is not supposed to mean gambling on a random stock because someone on the internet sounded confident. Investing means using money to buy pieces of productive assets over time, such as broad funds, businesses, real estate, or other assets that can grow or pay income. Speculation asks, can I get rich quickly if this price jumps? Investing asks, can I own something valuable for a long time and let time work with me? Those are not the same question. One is excitement, the other is patience. Ethan learns this through two imaginary adults. One adult saves a little cash, spends the rest, and says investing is only for rich people. The other adult starts small, invests consistently, and lets years do the heavy lifting. In the first year, the difference looks tiny. After 10 or 20 years, the difference can become enormous. The sixth lesson is that compound growth is boring before it becomes powerful. School teaches formulas, but it rarely shows what those formulas feel like in real life. Compounding means growth begins to build on earlier growth. Money can compound, skills can compound, reputation can compound, and relationships can compound. A student who learns a valuable skill at 18 may not look impressive immediately, but if that skill improves every year and it connects to better work, better people, and better opportunities, the results can grow faster than expected. The same is true with investing. Small actions repeated for years can beat dramatic actions that only happen once. The seventh lesson is that a job is not just a job. A first job pays money, but it also teaches a way of thinking. Some jobs teach discipline, communication, sales, coding, finance operations, leadership, or how customers behave. Other jobs only teach someone how to survive the schedule. That does not mean every early job has to be glamorous. Sometimes the best first job is simply the one that teaches a skill and puts a person near opportunity. A student should ask, what will this job make me better at? If the answer is nothing, the paycheck may still help, but the job is not building much future value. School often rewards correct answers. Work rewards useful outcomes. A student can memorize the definition of a market, but a business pays for someone who can find customers. A student can write about leadership, but a team pays for someone who can organize people. A student can pass a finance class, but the world pays for someone who can make better decisions with real money under pressure. The eighth lesson is that grades matter, but they are not the whole scoreboard. Good grades can help Ethan get into programs, win scholarships, and show discipline. That matters. But after school, the market does not pay for report cards forever. It pays for problem solving, judgment, communication, risk management, and the ability to create value for other people. This is why some straight-A students struggle after graduation, while some average students become financially strong. It is not because grades are bad, it is because grades are only one signal. Money responds to value, not just effort. A person can work very hard on the wrong things and still stay stuck. The ninth lesson is that money loves ownership. Employees can build wealth, especially if they earn well, spend carefully, and invest consistently. But ownership changes the game. Ownership can mean stocks, a business, rental property, a partnership, a product, a client book, or equity in a company. Ownership means you're not only selling hours, you own part of the thing that creates value. This is the idea Ethan never heard in school. The question is not only, what job do you want? The better question is, what skill can one day help you own something? A nurse might own a clinic, a designer might own a studio, a coder might own software, a salesperson might own an agency, and a teacher might own educational products. The job can be the training ground, but ownership is often where wealth expands. The 10th lesson is that financial stress is not always caused by laziness. Many people are not bad with money because they are stupid. They are bad with money because nobody gave them a map. They were taught to study, behave, graduate, and get hired. Then real life handed them taxes, interest rates, rent, debt, insurance, inflation, and investing apps, all at the same time. That is why blaming people is easy, but teaching the system is better. If Ethan understands money early, he can make fewer expensive mistakes. He can choose a career with clearer eyes. He can avoid debt that steals his future income. He can build an emergency fund before the emergency. He can invest before he feels rich. He can treat raises as tools, not just rewards. The money map school should have given him is simple. Earn money, keep some of it, avoid toxic debt, build useful skills, buy assets, invest consistently, and look for ownership. None of that guarantees wealth, because life is not a clean spreadsheet, but it gives a person a much better chance than simply hoping a diploma will handle everything. So what does school never teach about money? It rarely teaches that a paycheck is only the beginning. It rarely teaches that the amount you keep matters more than the amount you announce. It rarely teaches that debt can become a cage, that assets can become freedom, and that investing is mostly patience wearing a boring outfit. Most of all, school rarely teaches that grades are not the finish line. They are a door. After that door, the real test is not multiple choice. The real test is whether you can turn income into options, options into assets, and assets into a life that is not controlled by the next paycheck. Before Ethan chooses a college, a job, a car, or a lifestyle, he needs to ask better questions. How much will I really keep? What will this debt cost me? What skill am I building? What asset am I buying? What will I own in 10 years? School teaches you how to pass the test. Money teaches you what the test was really about.